My name is Lawrence. I am going to respond to an advocated claim that single-use land zoning has become a hindrance to livable neighborhoods. Let me just define the single-use land zoning. That means that certain sectors of cities are for factories, industrial, commercial, residential. So you can't put a factory next to a home if you have single-use land zoning. I'm going to lay out the opponent's secondary claims first off. The advocate believes that single-use land zoning has assisted in social and health problems. Second, the advocate also claims that single-use land zoning has created economic problems. Third, the advocate believes that single-use land zoning has added to our environmental problems. So I'm going to respond to these claims. The first one about the social and health problems. The advocate actually provided a piece of research called How Zoning Causes Sprawl from an immensely opinionated author. The problem with this piece of research is that the author shows bias for the subject without any evidence of a study, because the author is Michael Lewin, an associate professor at the Turrell Law Center. The author has numerous blogs about being auto-free in major U.S. cities. The author obviously does not believe in automobiles, so he would indicate the author is highly biased towards the automobile use and the commuting, but the author doesn't show where this sprawl is causing some sort of health problem. So I find that difficult to see. The advocate also makes inferences about health problems with the zoning by commuting to stores and work thanks to this urban sprawl. But it's difficult to prove because there's no clear pathway about how this occurs, especially since commuting involves one to plant themselves in a chair, drive somewhere, then get out of that chair. There's not much strain on the body for that. So it doesn't really show how health problems arise either. But according to Ben Apple, who serves the National Association of Realtors, this is an expert who sees real estate transactions done, clientele expectations, and what people look for in places, saw that there really, when there isn't a sprawl and there's just a city center to live in, there are actually health problems that do occur in that case because of the traffic pollution. Also, the advocate believes health issues would arise from this sprawl, but according to Ben, it's the other way around. And the second claim was that zoning created economic problems. It's a little difficult to believe. I'm going to respond with it actually creates economic sustainability because, first off, the advocate uses a research called market-based exchanges, which has citations from credible researchers. However, these citations show early 1970s to the late 1980s. It's a little problematic because the economy fluctuates a lot, and it's good to have a current study on that. The critics of the single-use zoning in the piece of research don't really exemplify meaningful statistics or facts. They just flood a lot of their own selfish whims on speculation on this and their favorable views. So while the advocate may think single-use zoning creates economic problems, Karen Brown from the Brookings Institution actually says that critical positions in the labor market are filled thanks to single-use zoning because of affordable housing for those who work in the sector. Thus, critical positions are being utilized and not suffering economically. And the third claim the advocate used about adding to our environmental problems. Well, actually, single-use zoning allows people to enjoy the environment around them because, first of all the evidence the advocate provided didn't indicate a sprawl for using single-use zoning, which I agree, but nowhere did I find anything about an environmental impact as a result. Because the advocate asserted that more commuting is related to environmental or social problems, but in regards to environmental problems, a congested city is just as bad. But according to the Glasshammer organization that studies financial services, law, and business, the single-use zoning actually allows people to have lawns and backyards and open green space, so people actually get to enjoy these environmentally important areas, unlike when the advocate claimed that these important areas will no longer be used or enjoyed by. So it's a little bit difficult to see how the advocate got to all these points. So overall, I think single-use land zoning actually doesn't create health problems, economic problems, and environmental problems. Thank you.
All right, structurally everything is very nice. It's easy to follow. I think that you need to define the controversy a little bit more than you need to define the terminology that's being used there. And the controversy comes down to basically whether we should favor concentrated cities, or whether or not the sprawl that currently exists in a lot of cities is satisfactory in some way, or it doesn't create some harm or problem. That's a good simplification of the idea or concept. I thought that you did a nice job suggesting that there is potential bias in the source that the advocate used, although the fact that people have an auto-free attitude or system of thought doesn't necessarily mean that they are incapable of reaching a conclusion. I think the argument that you want to make here is that in none of those blogs is any scientific evidence provided that shows that people are healthier as a consequence of having this concentrated sort of living that this author seems to favor. I think you did make a little bit more of an argument on that when it comes down to that person's position being that most of these harms occur because of issues of driving, and you in essence say that it's hard to measure any of those kinds of things and we don't really know what is being talked about there. That's a reasonable press on those points. On the economic issue, I thought you had a very clear counterclaim on this, and you had some good evidence on this. The first part of it is basically a challenge to the advocate's evidence being relatively old, based on data from the 70s and the 80s. And then you have the argument that says, look, this kind of housing market has allowed people to have a more specialized labor market and fill jobs that otherwise would not be able to be filled, so there's clearly an economic advantage there. Now, neither of them has indicated any way of quantifying this, so I don't know how we weigh whatever the negative economic impacts are that the advocate is talking about versus the positive economic impacts that you're talking about, but at least you got a counterclaim that says, hey, there is this benefit here, and so you've got something that we can say, well, it stands in contrast to that position. It would be nice if we had some way to weigh it on top of that. On the third point on the environmental issues, again, it's basically a press on the impact that's going to happen here. You're suggesting that there's not really much quantification on, and the good counterclaim that you've got here is that there are benefits to people having access to these sorts of environments, lawns and yards and all that kind of thing. It would be nice maybe if you had some information that suggested those, in fact, enhance the environment, not just that people enjoy them, but, I don't know, they provide filter for the CO2 in the atmosphere, or they reduce solar reflection off of the ground and evaporation in the atmosphere as a consequence. I don't know. There's got to be something like that that would be a benefit from those sorts of things. All right. Thank you.